Are there any new grape varieties or regions that you are looking to discover?
Not so much on the regional side. I mean, even if I say that we've been curious about Washington, but we're not planning to move anything up there right now. But I am curious about some of the Washington wines. But as far as varietals go, I started. I mean, this goes back over 10 years ago. Started playing with some obscure Italian varietals, Tiraldago,
Hmm,
Sorrentino, Nero de Avola, Negro Amaro. And then
interesting.
getting a little bit more into some of the Rhone varieties as well. But those are pretty well known. The Italian varietals are pretty new for us here in California, and especially new to me. With the Rhone varietals, I've had experience over the years with them, anyways. With of course, Syrah, Grenache, Mourvedre, Carignan. Um, and so we've been working on this for quite a few years now, and we've sold some of these red blends of Italian varietal ancestry or Rhone varietal ancestry at our tasting room, and
Hmm,
I want to bring those out to a larger audience because I think if red blends can be such a broad spectrum. You can have, it can be huge and sweet and tannic, or it can be light and lean and minerally and whatever else. And so it's really hard for the customer to understand what it is that you're trying to produce. So, or what they're going to get in the bottle. So I want to try to bring some wines out in the next year that would be a red blend focusing on those Italian varietals, and one that would be those Rhone varietals, and try to kind of convey that message of the stylistic differences between those. So that's coming
hmm.
down the pipeline, but that's been a lot of fun, I think, in working with different reds. Riesling, that's one we started producing out of Santa Rita Hills, just a small piece. It's about 3 acres. But you set your sights on something, and of course, I kind of go back to the Alsatian roots, and I've always loved some of the great Rieslings coming out of Alsace, like the Cuvée
Hmm.
Frederick Emile from Trimbach is one of my just top wines of all time. And so I like, how do we in California produce a more petrol style? And I think
Yeah.
that's something we've had a really hard time with. And I used to think that was pyrazines. And then
Hmm.
upon kind of discovery over this, it's really about, if you want that character, the fruit needs to be degraded. Not, you don't need to like yell at the fruit and call it names, but you need to let it just hang. You need to let it hang and kind of like a little bit of rot. And I know that doesn't sound good, but that's how it is. So over a few vintages, we've been able to work this vineyard to be able to get the hang time, to get that desiccation and degradation of the fruit while maintaining the acidity. That's the balance. So you
Hmm.
don't want the
Yeah.
acidity to go too low. You don't want the sugar and potential alcohol to go too high, but you want that degradation of the fruit to get that petrol character. So while it does have a little bit of, a little more of a Californian kind of oily, greasy character, like a bit of weight, a bit of richness. It's not as lean as maybe my preferences for what I'd get out of Alsace. But we're able to get an augmented character of the that kind of diesel-y, fuel-y character. So that's been something that I've really been enjoying. I don't think we'd ever be able to do that on a large scale. So making a couple hundred cases a year. I think that while we have a few of our wines that are pretty good sized productions, we spend more time on the stuff that is experimentative and these really small lots, 100 to 200 cases of each. And I think a part of that is like me and the team. We enjoy that. We like the progression. We like the
Hmm.
understanding that there's more out there, and so we dedicate more time to it. And I think it does fulfill us. I think that's a big part of it. But then when it comes to the wines that we know what we're doing, like the Belglass Clark and Telephone here, been farming this for over 20 years and understand how to make the wines and know what our goal is. And yeah, there's little twists and turns throughout each vintage, and new processes that we put in place that can help with maybe consistency every vintage, or augmenting one part of that style. Um, and so those are all little things, but we understand how to do these wines, and so it's it's kind of like I don't want to say it gets boring because every vintage is so interesting. There's something new in every vintage, but you need to have that flair of excitement. You need to have like the failures to really kind of keep that passion alive. And so I talk about these small lots of wine that we produce. They're not all successful. I'd say for every 10 of those wines we produce, less than half of them make it. And that's part of it, and that's something we'll continue doing.
That's interesting, and it's so amazing that you have the ability to play with all these varieties and to come up with this creative cuvées. Here in Europe, it's a lot harder to be creative with grape varieties with all the DOCs. It's very limited what we can do on this side. But I think, as you mentioned, this philosophy, it shines through even with the Miami deal, that you've been more focused on your passion project and on the art of winemaking with Belglass and with all the rest of your brands, rather than the larger production brand.
Yeah.
And still prefer to play with all these smaller projects. I like that.
It keeps it fun, keeps it interesting. Keep the passion alive.
Exactly. Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here, or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section and see you in the next one.